And I feel better when everything is brown, you know, it's just made up of it's getting firm up tonight, and it's come out.
Right.
So you could do, but there's a shoulder. You look at Claremont, the sports water, that's coming down. So depending where you're at, you can carry your shoulder. Although you can call on your cell phone at the riser, and it's a lot of times you get an air message from US Cellular. And so every time US Cellular has a tower up there.
Really don't.
I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask for roll call, please.
Sherry Crow,
Here.
Paul Rowan, Terry Swafford, Russell Reed, Bill Miller,
Now we got them out of the way.
Jim Roberti,
Here.
Trina Cunningham,
Here.
Roger Dieselberg,
Here.
Jeffrey Greening,
Here.
Joe Hopkins,
Here.
Carol Thornton, and Ian Flood.
So we have a quorum. Yep, and thank all of you for making the effort to get here because I was a little worried about having to. Okay, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment opportunity. This is the opportunity for any member of the public to make comment on any item that is not on the agenda. If you'll hold comments on agenda items until that agenda item is called, we'll recognize it for that. Anybody have comments outside of agenda items? Announcements and reports. Uma, do you have any announcements or reports? Anyone else have announcements? Okay. Consent agenda. These items are just taken up as we can, and in this case, it's the minutes from the last meeting, or reading summary, I guess we call it. So I would accept the motion to accept the meeting summary from the previous meeting on September 22nd.
So moving.
Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. That brings us to the action agenda. Number 1 is project status update. And I'm sure that's yours.
There's not a lot to report since the last management review last month, but we're budgeting, our budget is now at 42% filled. We're in month 17 of our project, and our work is about 50% complete. We're still targeting the May 2016 for the end of the project and having a draft plan done. And these are our remaining tasks. We have the climate change technical study, which we'll hear about today. The forest water balance study, the community vulnerability study, DAC identification, and the draft plan itself. That's about all I have for the updates. Time unless there's questions.
Okay, any questions? Looks like we're moving right along. Are we pretty much still on schedule?
We are, yeah.
And I know we're working against a really tight schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2, stakeholder outreach updates. A is tribal outreach informational.
Trina.
Yeah, we haven't had a tribal this month. We're planning one within the next couple of weeks. We're still trying to get a date done, but I did want to share a few of the things that I've attended as far as meetings that have the potential to impact this process. And the Governor's Office of Planning and Research had some meetings in South Lake Tahoe 2 weeks ago that I was invited to, and these were really brainstorming sessions. One was on where land use and water meet, and the other one was rural capacity building. And so some of the ideas that came out of that, there were a lot of ideas that came out of it. There were about 12 people there, 12 to 15 people there at any point representing different places in the Sierras. And you know, incredible brainstorming, but we've talked in the uplands forest and floodplains and stuff about water storage in groundwater storage, and looking at the bond measures as for them to be considered as reservoirs. And I still really want to kind of push that if possible. And then there were some municipal people there from South Lake Tahoe and other places. So then it occurred that we should maybe combine municipal with those things in a way that rural populations are underfunded and underrepresented, and that's one of the biggest problems here. But if we were, and this was just an idea, and these are some of the ideas that are floating around, but if we could connect, municipalities can charge for maintenance of their reservoirs, and so that it's a far stretch and it would take a lot of work. But if we could tie, you know, have those places recognized as storage reservoirs, and then tie the service and maintenance of those places into fees to maybe bring fees into our rural areas. So it's just a thought, and it's really rough right now, but I did want to share that with you guys. And there were numerous other things. I also attended the Mountain Counties Water Resource Association meeting in Auburn last Friday, and for me, some of you guys have been in the room with the Southern California metropolitan people. It's the first time I had, and it was really great to hear from Roger Patterson that how much they support senior water rights and area of origin water rights, and their intent is to buy them all, or as many as they can. So it's great. Yeah. It was great to hear that, and it was also inspirational for me and alarming to know how much work we all have to do to protect those. And the other idea, back to the governor's office, is of course other people have thought of this, but we need legislative action or policy representing our resources and our needs. So we have to find a way to collaborate to instead of voting populations, because we know where that brings us. So if we can kind of maybe think in those terms and look at policy and law and as representation, what are our needs as rural areas, and how can we address those? So those were pretty big themes. And then Daniel Wildcat was at UC Davis on Tuesday doing a presentation, so I was able to go down there and have lunch with him and discuss some things. And he's authored numerous books, and one is on TEK, Traditional Ecological Knowledge. So if you guys have a chance, again, his name is Daniel Wildcat. I'm sure on Amazon there's some good books, and he has some really great concepts. So. And we are trying to move forward with TEK, and there's just a part missing right now on how we actually move it, how we're going to integrate it into the process. And so all these brainstorming ideas with a lot of different people that goes into that. So thank you.
Fantastic. Sounds like you can do it. Randy, did you have something you want to add?
Well, no, whatever it was.
It came in nice fast.
I can add that Elizabeth Betancourt contacted me, put me on a list. Another governor's office of planning and research for water planning and land use planning coming together to attend a meeting in November. I can't remember the date, I have it on my calendar. She had to submit a list of names, and she submitted my name. tried to call me before, but, and I said it was fine, I would attend. Being a land use planner, it's probably apropos that I get engaged in this discussion. In my mind, to be honest with everybody, water planning and land use planning are so tied together. Again, from the land use side, you don't see a lot of differences because it's key to whatever happens on the landscape. So that should be pretty interesting.
Okay, that takes us to item B, which is work group update, and I see we have a list of the meeting schedules for the various work groups.
That's the last management group meeting, the Plains Meadows water bodies work group is met. And they've been working through their recommendations on their resource management strategies, which we'll hear a little bit later after this item, actually. Otherwise, the coordinators are continuing to work with the project sponsors through the work groups on the project applications. The chapter review process has begun. We have 2 chapters out for review right now. The governance stakeholder involvement and coordination chapter, which was released on October 8th, and we have the comments due on November 11th. And then we also have the climate change chapter, which has been released on October 14th, with comments due on November 13th. These are on the website, and they are based on a 30-day initial public review period. So the documents themselves and the schedule is on the website.
Good. Well, I'd like to say how really pleased I am with the work groups and the work they're doing, and the coordinators that are herding everybody together to get it done. I was kind of leery about how this process would work, but I'm really pleased to see the amount of work that people are putting into it and how responsive the groups have been. So thank you to everybody I see some of their faces here, who is spending so much time on this. Item 3 is resource management strategies presented by the Floodplain Meadows Water Bodies Work Group.
Carl is there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Well, briefly, on our work group that we had on the 16th, Terry, our coordinator, brought us up to date on what had happened at the regional water band. I missed that. And we did review our resource management strategies and give final approval for what we come up with to present to you today. She also brought us up to date on the clean greenhouse gas and all that kind of stuff. We have to do the evaluations on our proposals. Anyway, concerning our strategies for the RMSs, we did ours pretty much like I think probably all the other work groups did. We asked Terry, the coordinator, to put together a whole list, and she used a lot of the other region strategies. We added some to that from the work group, and also our what we call our management team for the work group. We met and added some to the list. And then when we had our approval session, a lot of them were removed because we felt that they just didn't really apply like they did to some of the other regions. And then some of them were removed because we didn't feel like we could accomplish them in the time frame and the monies and the time that each of us as individuals had to contribute to this. What I would like to do is not go through the whole list, since you have those in your package, and read them each, unless you really want me to. I can stand here and read them all if you would like, but it would probably take half hour, 45 minutes just to do that. What I would prefer to do is to let you know that BLOG, formerly ADWAC, when we were an advisory group to the Board of Supervisors, addressed many of these strategies. And that data will be reviewed and used for appropriate whenever we do look at these. And just as an example is that RMS 10, which is precipitation enhancement, we had a forum up in Chester on this where we had PG&E come and give us all kinds of data that Dr. Popper and I contributed to that forum too. But we have a pretty good understanding about cloud seeding and precipitation enhancement. Also, there's a lot of the other strategies that's in the document that Log or Mountain Hills Conservancy has addressed, and we will be reviewing that information and using it where it's appropriate. I am prepared to answer any questions that you might have on our strategies, but like I said, with your permission, I prefer not to stand here and read the whole 3 pages of
Thank you for that. That's one of my pet peeves, is having somebody read something to me that I've already got. That's a good thing. I think the most interesting thing as we've gone through these strategies and are going through them with the work group, they're such lofty goals that in some cases you read them and you're kind of like, how are we actually going to do these things? So it will be interesting to see with some of these, what the actual implementation strategies are.
Well, as you know from your past history, Log has addressed quite a few of these strategies.
I do, especially for the Almanor Basin,
Right.
which a lot of that
And they do
hopefully
apply
will
to
apply
most of them.
countywide,
Yeah.
or in this case, region-wide. Anybody have any questions for Carl or comments on the strategies or need clarification? Man, you're sprung.
Thank you.
I just want to say it's pretty comprehensive.
I know, it's very comprehensive, it's very impressive.
Thanks, Terry.
Okay, and Terry, thank you. I know the amount of work that goes into something. Thank you for your time and effort. Item number 4, Sierra Nevada Conservancy Watershed Improvement Program and Grant Opportunities. Right, I'm very happy to say that I work with these folks on a number of years basis now, and I'm very pleased to have them here and hope to hear some really good opportunities.
Yeah, well, we're really happy to have Sherry on board. It's been great, you know, the Sierra Nevada Conservancy was signed into existence in 2004, and it was the need for representation of the Sierra that brought forth the formation of the Conservancy. So our boundaries, legislative boundaries, are all the way at the top to Modoc County, all the way down to Kern County. So 25 million acres of the Sierra represented by the Conservancy. So we hit the ground running in 2008. We had Proposition 84 money. We had $54 million from Proposition 84 to start granting out into the region. And our triple bottom line is pretty broad, but it's to assist and enhance the social, economic, and environmental aspects of the Sierra. So a lot of our grants are they cover all 3 of those, you know, because bringing money into an area will create jobs. It helps with resource, you know, all of the things that the resources depend on what the grant opportunity is, and it brings communities together. So I love running the grant program. It's one of the best parts of the Conservancy. But we do other things too. We work with policy and outreach. You know, we work with tribes, we work with abandoned mine lands. So come to me if you have any questions. I am your new representative for the North Central subregion. So I know some of you, but not all of you. I would love it if you would come and introduce yourself at some point. You can reach me through Puma. And the North Central subregion is Puma, Sierra, Butte, and Helena counties. And what we have right now is a Proposition 1 funding opportunity. And in the last Proposition 1 that was voted in, the Conservancy has 25 million that we can push out into the region. So because it's really not that much, we focused our ask into the region for what we consider one of the most important problems that's happening in the Sierra is forest management, and how they're related to water quality, water supply, upper watershed problems. And there are other sister agencies of ours that are working with water watershed restoration, stream restoration, meadow. So there are three possibilities for groups to apply for money to cover large landscape level projects that hit a lot of different things. So the Fish and Wildlife are the ones who are working with wetlands restoration, that kind of thing. But we are really focused on forest health. And so we're trying to partner with a lot of the public lands around here, which is mostly Forest Service, BLM, and also how it ties in with the private lands. So I've been working a little bit with the new Forest Stewardship Coalition, Fire City Council, and the Forest Service, and they have put in an application with us in this last year. So, and I think there are more coming along. But the idea is to form a collaborative where you have the private landowners, you have the public landowners, you have the people who are eligible or willing to do the groundwork and actually do the application, and then administer the grant. Forest Service cannot apply for grant money, and so they need the Fire City Councils or the other nonprofits to apply on their behalf. So it kind of forces collaboration, which I think is a good thing. So we are looking for larger landscape scale, fuel reduction, and all the activities that would go along with forest health. So, looking at maybe helping with invasive weeds, getting them out, replanting areas that have been burned, getting out, enroaching whatever kind of trees that are moving into meadows. It depends on the landscape. So it's a big, wide sweeping program, but there's a lot of need, and we're getting really hit with a lot of ideas and applications. So the September 1st deadline came along pretty quick, but we have another one coming up March 1st. So this is the time to start getting ideas to me and start working with me and with the groups up here to get applications in. So the first 2 years of this funding opportunity, we're going to be making $10 million available and trying to get that pushed out. The next 2 years will be $7 million, and the 2 years after that will be $5 million. So if you miss the March 1st deadline, we can still look at another deadline ahead. So we're hoping to get a lot done with this grant program.
Are you focusing on getting it on the ground or focusing on studies?
Both. Okay, so there are 2 opportunities. That's a good question. I planned it here. We have what we call Category 1 and Category 2 applications. And the Category 2 applications are the planning design. So if you have an idea of what you want to get done, we have adequate land tenure, you can do work on that piece of property. This will pay for design, all of the permitting you need, get your CEQA, your NEPA done. So that Cat 2 needs to lead to an on-the-ground project. So by the time you're done, you have everything you need to start. And then the Cat 1 projects are started where you have everything done. So all of your CEQA and NEPA is done. You're doing. And so the Cat 2 projects are $75,000, and the Cat 1 projects, which are implementation, are up to $500,000.
Can I ask a question on that? What if you have a project that's ready to go, implementable, have all those pieces, but you want to evaluate something that's going to take some analysis by some experts and things? For example, storage of water when you remove conifers from the perimeter of a meadow, something like that. Is that in a monitoring, or where does that thing fit?
Yeah, we include monitoring in Cat 1 projects.
Okay.
It's an indirect, so it shouldn't be a huge line item, but we do include that. We do pay for that.
Okay.
You mentioned deadlines. So is the deadline for the first 2 years for the 10 million already passed, and now you're going to be accepting for the 7?
We already had a September 1st deadline,
Okay.
and the next one coming up is March 1st.
Okay.
And then after that, I guess it'll be September 1st, 2017, and so on. So it'll always be March and September, 2 years. I wanted to introduce my colleagues. This is Andy Kristinsky, he's my boss. The Mount Lassen area, which we call North of Auburn, area manager. And Christy Hoffman is our new hire. She just started on with the Conservancy. We had Linda Hansen, who lived in Susanville, retired. And so Christy is taking Linda's place. And Christy's region is north of here. So it's Lassen, Modoc, and Shasta counties. And believe me, it's better than if you live in an area not to work with the people right in your own area. So I'm the representative for the I live in Nevada County, and I was responsible for Nevada County, and it was a little tough. So it's good to live somewhere and then, work somewhere else. But we're really glad to have Christy here, and of course, it's good to come visit her here. So we're going to be setting up an office in Quincy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So Christy will be at that office full time, and then I'll use it when I'm here.
Well, one of the things I think is really ties into the work that the IRWM here is doing is your category 2, and that what we're hearing from almost all of our organizations, RCPs, and people who are on the ground that could do some of these projects is they lack capacity. They lack the capacity, to get it off the ground, to go through the permitting, the environmental work, whatever needs to be done before they can actually start work on the ground. So the fact that there's funding available to help fund some of that is huge.
Yeah, there's project management line items, which are usually staff, and then an admin overhead line item that will help support an office.
And then 75,000 should go a lot further, given the direction.
So come to me. Okay, so I did half of the presentation. Andy is going to do the other half about the watershed improvement program.
Thanks. I come up here, so not everyone has to crane their necks.
Oh, sorry.
That's right. So as mentioned, my name is Andy Kristinsky. I'm new to the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. Got about a solid 2.5 months in so far. I'm a longtime resident of the Sierra Nevada, except it's been much further south. Most of my career has been with the National Park Service. In fact, all of it up to now is working primarily in Yosemite National Park, Sequoia, years ago as a seasonal ranger.
So we're getting up here as much as we can.
Yeah, I very closely came to live in Quincy when I was a young boy. Well, first I started my life in New York, and my family moved out to California. My parents, being native New Yorkers, they obviously fell in love with California, how beautiful it was. We went long drives, and as a little kid in the backseat, I was like, yeah, I'm going along. See all these great spots. And, I fell in love with the Sierra Nevada, quite simply. So it set me on my path, like, one day I want to live up in those mountains. And I figured if I want to do that, I better get a good education. So the only school I came to visit for college before I applied was Feather River. And I came up here, fell in love with Quincy. But then I'm the youngest of 5. My parents said, yeah, if you're going to go to community college, you're going to live at home. So we're not going to ship you off out here. Really, my love of the Sierra has only grows, and I'm very excited to work for the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. I hope you're okay with it. I think you're going to be okay with it. We had a presentation which had lots of slides with text, more text, and more text, and more text, and I said, no way do I want to show lots of slides of text. So if you're all right with that, or I could maybe get some slides of text, I'm hoping you guys will help me out, because I think collectively in this room, as I talk about the watershed improvement program, that we can come up with it on our own right now, because it's the same idea. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. First question, and we'll just do popcorn style. Spit it out if you have an answer. What does Sierra Nevada mean to you? What are the values of the Sierra Nevada? Who cares about the Sierra Nevada? I got friends that live in the city in California. Why should they care about the Sierra Nevada? I know you guys know this.
Clean water.
Clean water, of course. What else?
Clean air.
Clean air. That's all this whole mountain range is. Clean water and air.
Recreation.
Recreation, yeah.
Source water.
I heard something.
Source water.
Source water.
Timber.
Timber, of course.
Rural lifestyle.
Rural lifestyle, absolutely. You know, these are all things. These are the things we value, right? These are the things why we all live here, because we value these things, and we hopefully like to get people out there in the rest of the world to recognize these values. Not all these values are in tip-top condition, right? We've got some risks facing the Sierra Nevada. So what are some of the risks? You know, why are you guys together as a group? So I'm just asking you to identify yourselves, I guess. You know, why are we here today? What risks are we facing?
Catastrophic fire.
Catastrophic fire, of course.
Atrocious management of public land.
Atrocious management of public land.
Water conveyance.
Water conveyance, yeah. I mean, obviously, we have these risks. We've known these risks for a long time. You know? The thing that's, I think, has impressed me quite a bit these first couple of months of working for the Conservancy is when I worked in Yosemite, very focused. I was down in a very deep valley. You have to be very focused on what's going on out there. Working for the Conservancy, it's given me the chance to reach out and go to a lot of the communities. And I've recognized, my goodness, there are a ton of people out there, all of you in this room, that care enough about this place that you want to do something about it. There's all these different people all over the mountain range. It's not just here. It really is in every rural community that we have throughout. And how are we going to be able to come together and maybe address some of these risks? Catastrophic fire, obviously that's something we all talk a lot about. How's that going to affect watershed health? You know, maybe it's going to cause erosion. That's going to affect the capacity of reservoirs, or all the things that we know about. So the Sierra Nevada Conservancy is not the first organization by any means to recognize that these are some of the issues that we're facing. These are the values that we're trying to protect. We've come up with, and in partnership with Region 5 of the U.S. Forest Service, the Watershed Improvement Program. Essentially, what this is we want a collaboration with different partners to recognize, you know what, we've got these values, we have risks, let's come together so we can actually start solving some of these risks on a very large landscape approach and not do so much small piecemeal type of thing. Because we recognize that we're going to have to come together. We're going to have to rely on all of us together in order to happen. Our objectives, we want to identify watershed restoration needs. You know, it's not just that. We already can identify needs out there. A lot of us have done it. Irwin's have been doing it all along, but it also means obviously we need increased investment. You know, that's the reason Lynn's presenting. It's like, well, here's some money that we can provide. Obviously, there's a need out there. People need that investment. We also all know that we have policies that sometimes impede what we're able to do, so we have to address the policy over time. So the Watershed Improvement Program essentially wants to be able to try to address some of those policy needs, move away from those smaller random acts of restoration, do it on a large scale basis. We just really see it as a network of connecting all of us, all partners, and people outside of this room, to the data that's out there. So that's going to mean we're going to have to gather some data, you know, figure out how we're going to solve this problem. Let's know what the problem is. Let's know everything that's out there. Let's talk to one another. And we just need to use that to make a better case to leverage all our resources and hopefully find some more resources out there. Our four, so therefore, our four main focus areas for this is policy. We want to implement policy change. We want to address those challenges that are facing all of us out there. Funding, obviously, we all can recognize is a big issue. And part of that is tracking funding, but it's also trying to find some new funding so we can further our investments. Project identification and implementation. Again, assessing the area, whether that's with watershed assessments, forest assessments, taking that information there and recognizing, all right, what are some of the priority areas for a larger scale implementation. And then, obviously, ultimately, communication as well. It's obviously a very critical component to what we have out there. We all know, when we talk about rural communities, we recognize the importance of the Sierra Nevada. We know that over 60% of the water that's in this mountain range goes to the rest of the state. We know the bulk of our voters in this state don't live in the Sierra Nevada. So we need to be able to communicate that out there. You know, I tell you, I've given a lot of ranger programs in my life. My favorite one, and I worked in 5 different national parks, but I always gave the same type of program at each one. The title was always "The Water is the Giver of Life." I usually start the program by asking people, where does your water come from? Do you even know? A lot of times I got the answer, turn on my faucet. That's where it comes from. You really didn't, a lot of people didn't even know where their water came from. That's how they see a huge, huge issue. Another question I would often ask is, what rivershed, what watershed? I do a little bit better answer on that, but even not 100% of people, at least that would visit Yosemite National Park, would be able to answer that question. I think you got to be able to get out there and talk to the people outside of our towns, the larger voting public, to be able to express our concerns and encourage all our partners and policy and decision makers on how to create some new policies, perhaps change some existing policies so we can leverage these resources. Our timeline for this type of program is essentially between now and through next spring. We want to complete some watershed assessments. We want to track existing investments. A little bit a year from now, figure out, are there new funding that we can try to focus our needs on, and obviously ongoing to try to continue to address some of the policy issues out there. Again, this is nothing new. This is all the stuff that each and every one of you have been working on for a long time. This is really an effort that how can we all come together? How can we recognize in ourselves as a larger group, yeah, these are the issues that we care about, so let's work together to do it. So, like I mentioned, the founding partners of this program, Region 5 of the Forest Service and the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. There's a memorandum of understanding between the 2 agencies. The Sierra Nevada Conservancy would be the lead on coordinating some of the state efforts. Region 5 would coordinate some of the federal efforts, but recognizing there's no way it's just going to be 2 different groups that are going to be able to do it all. So the Sierra Nevada Conservancy and the Forest Service basically asking, maybe come help endorse this type of program. The feeling being that if we can have this identified program out there that's recognized, that maybe that's going to be able to be a way to funnel money in. Maybe that's going to be a way for decision makers and policymakers to figure out, all right, these people up there in the mountains, maybe they know what they're doing, and we can start getting together and help solve some of those problems for both. We'll have to get into their minds. Oh, it's for your people out there, and of course, for the ones that are the end users as well. So that's the Watershed Improvement Program. It's a relatively new idea, newish in the way that it's this program with the title, but it's also, of course, a very old idea. So the Conservancy asks if any organizations are interested, visit our website and endorse the Watershed Improvement Program. In the agenda packet, there's a paper copy of the online form. Just head to our website, find that out for yourselves. Hopefully this means some solutions to some of the problems that we know that exist. Any questions?
Randy?
I'm a little confused about what policies you're trying to influence. At the local level, state level, at the forest level?
Yes.
Yes.
What policies are slowing down the work you're trying to do?
Oh.
I mean, right?
Don't ask that question.
Yeah, don't ask in this forum.
Okay, but point being, obviously, it's not just this group that faces policy challenges, right? It's not just the Conservancy, it's not just the Forest Service. We've identified this for a long time. We talk about it amongst ourselves for a while. How are we going to get the decision makers to be able to talk about it and to recognize our needs as a
Tragically, it's going to have to go to Washington. It isn't going to happen here.
It happens on all levels. Yeah.
Big pardon?
It happens on all levels.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
I
So
would
Washington, it does.
like to encourage you, because you kind of brushed over it, but to go to the website and endorse this program, having been on the board, when I first started with the Conservancy, the direction most everything they did with their funding was to buy up conservation easements and property for conservation. And starting with ex-supervisor Bill Nunes from Sierra County and then myself following in his position, we lobbied the board extensively to look at exactly this, a watershed improvement program. And so this does represent the culmination of a change in direction of the Conservancy. And something of that size to change direction wasn't easy. And I remember being in MacArthur and talking about this, and some of the board members who are not from rural regions and watershed regions were highly supportive, which I thought was really kind of amazed me because they really literally turned the entire direction around. So I think this is something that if we want to see this, we need to express the support for it so that they continue in that direction rather than changing direction.
So, Sherry, the Regional Water Management Group can endorse this as a group.
Sure, yes,
And then
and individual people can.
individual people can, you know, as the planning director
Our
for
cities can.
Plymouth County, I think that it would be the Board of Supervisors rather than, you know, my department doing this.
Right, exactly.
And the Regional Water Management Group is representative of many different organizations that could do this. I'm just giving, I'm asking
Right, yes.
clarification.
Yeah, definitely.
So is this something that should be taken up by, right now we have a Board of Supervisors here, two of them from Plymouth County, but there's Sierra County put this on the agenda for the boards to consider endorsing.
I think definitely. I know Paul will, you know, carry the torch in Sierra County because he was one of the ones that was beating on me to try to put this change in that direction and keep the momentum going.
So I'm just kind of doing clarification questions here for everybody to take back to their organizations.
Right. But I think that, you know, it would be helpful to the Conservancy to have that showing of support for this direction because there are always kind of all kinds of demands from all kinds of people that would like to see their agenda be the focus. So it's really important to support this effort. Leah?
One thing I think is really exciting about the regional water management group, you know, thinking about endorsing this is that it does represent the whole region, and the region is defined as the water that runs into Oroville. And so for the region to say watershed improvement is important to the region, I mean, really sets a tone that even all the individual organizations can't. And so I think as you see these resource management strategies roll out from all the groups, I mean, they're on the ground, we're reinforcing all this, but a policy by the work, you know, the regional water management group would be something that I hope people consider thinking about, because it says something about the whole place.
Yeah. Why don't we put that on our next agenda for an action item? Being as how we're Brown Act organization, we can't just do whatever the heck.
That's what I was
And
thinking.
the national park is here. I mean, there's just some players. We're gonna have the fire safe councils from Butte come up to our next, in Lassen to our next forest. So we're really collecting the edges of the region now, and you know, and elevating the kind of work that the tribes are doing across the region. Anyway, we're just pushing in that direction. So it ties in from the ground up to what you're saying, but we'd also like to hear it from the regional management group as well.
And then one of the other things you touched on was the people who live in the urban areas that really don't know where the water comes from when they turn on their tap and that type of thing. I'm kind of curious, what type of outreach are you doing in those areas, or do you see funding for others to do that type of outreach, to bring an educational program to the people that live there that you have an investment in this area if you want to be able to turn on your tap and have decent water come out, or any water come out the way things are.
LA and San Francisco.
Well, that's the thing. I know we've talked about some type of an educational program for a couple of years now with just that in mind, that, you know, it needs to be on television. It needs to be like PSA type things and stuff like that, where the average person begins to realize that maybe it is important to invest in watershed management and forest management.
It needs to be focused in the urban areas.
That's it.
We already have a model program too. That's the thing with that sixth grade program that Rob Wade, works with the sixth graders. There are kids that ripples through them, and if you were to expand that, part of that is reaching into the urban area. So we may already have something to build on that's been very successful for a long time, even though it's geared at the sixth grade level. But I mean, that program is pretty phenomenal, and it's amazing how many parents learn. Like, I don't know how many times I've gone into a business or talked with people in our community who, because they got to go along with that, the kids on there, this is that Plymouth to the Sea, program, because they've been able to go on it, they're more aware just because they're children. So, we might already have a model, which is kind of cool that other people could build on, and maybe it just needs to have a little higher profile or get that kind of intelligent component, and maybe some more interaction with, urban. Because I know they do actually go, they trade one person can even speak to it, she's been part of it. But anyway, it just seems like we might have something already.
We probably, and that would be a good portion of it. I know I'm on the Lassen Foundation Board of Directors, and we fund the program for urban youth in the park. And the times I've been up there when they've been there, it just blows you away that these kids have no concept of what it's like to be in a forest or in the woods. I mean, you think that we all think it's a no-brainer, but it just brings it home that there's a huge population that has no concept of what we're even talking about when we say forest management, because they've never been in a forest.
We just had the Sierra Nevada Watershed Awareness Week legislature, and people are asking us for curriculum and materials, and they're asking us for something they can use in their communities. So we should work with that.
Is there some information on that?
Oh my God, it was huge.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, with Rob Wade, what is that?
You would never be able to get
13 or 14 years. But yeah, there's definitely a resource. Yeah, Randy, but yeah.
We have a proposal in the Plains Metals Work Group that addresses this issue. That's because of the region, it's specific to the region, but with a little extra funding, you could take that thing all the way down to Sacramento if you'd like. With
We need it to be in San
Sierra
Francisco
Institute
and Los
for Environmental Sciences.
I would just say this is a microcosm of exactly what I think the watershed improvement program is hoping for, is to bring all our different partners together and talk about these things and try to solve them.
And originating from the State Water Project, IRWM.
Yeah, I know, question here, and I've been waiting for a long time too, so how about we go here?
Okay. In reference to the watershed, you say it's an improvement program, but for instance, one of the capital projects at the water and sewer company that I work for, we're looking into installing a water building and having a water shed installed within our district. Is that something that you guys are looking into funding for if we wanted to possibly apply for money for it, or are you guys just thinking about improving watersheds that are already developed? I'm very confused on that.
Yeah, as we have now, right now we have the Prop 1 money that Lynn had talked about, so that is focused. Clearly we have larger hopes for new funding sources to come in. That's the idea of the watershed improvement program is not just be focused in on one pot of money, but try to get other different pots of money. One thing the Sierra Nevada Conservancy does is in your packet there is we have someone that is an absolute bulldog trying to find different grants for, you come to us and say, hey, can we do this? We say, we can't do that with Prop 1, but go talk to Elisa because she's out there trying to find grant money all across the board. And in your packet, you see just a whole list of different kinds of grant opportunities.
She maintains that and sends out a newsletter so you can sign up on our website for her workshops.
So we try to do whatever we can to help you identify different fundings for your various needs.
What is the Conservancy's presence in DC?
We're a state agency.
Well, I understand that, but
it's
the pots in DC.
yeah, I would say limited, right? It's
so we
but
have.
obviously a part of this is a major founding partner is the Forest Service too. So clearly we've got the state agency and the federal agency together. So it's we're obviously counting on all our partners, the Forest Service being our primary one to help us.
We work with Randy Moore.
Yeah.
So he's
From the outreach and package.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Rena, what's your first? Thank you, Terry. So as a tribal person, one of the things we've definitely been pushing for years is landscape scale projects and things like that. But along with that comes landscape style collaboration. And are you guys really focusing in, because there are a lot of small groups doing work or even overlapping with each other, but they're really focused in on their small little projects. Is this a way to maybe make that bigger and have people fill different parts instead of,
Well, yeah,
competing against each other?
That's a very good objective that we have for this program, right? And speaking to that point, you've got the piecemeal. You have maybe in our mountain range some partners that didn't always get along together, and that doesn't do us good. So we're recognizing that the collaboration, the more that we're all able to work together and bring in different groups, the better able to leverage those resources and to get more resources coming our way. That seems to be the business model, the model that we're going after here. Yeah, we want this.
So it seems almost like reforming groups at a community level could be an ultimate objective, because you're bringing everybody together to focus on the larger scale. It's just been a frustration in the tribal communities and that's part of why the Mighty Summit Consortium was formed, is because this group was doing their little piece over here and this group was doing their little piece over there, and we were all doing a lot of work, but really not much was getting done. And so when we formed a consortium and brought all of that together, we're a lot, we communicate with each other and things happen better.
Right,
Not perfect, but
line.
better.
Right, exactly.
You do have the new Feather River Stewardship Coalition, and I think they are looking for active participation from everyone.
Well, it does bring a sense of a little bit of frustration because there's so many committees and so many boards, and it's like, how do we drop off of some of those and be on one that's bigger, and when is the right time to do that? And so I think for me, looking at that, and it's like, oh, there's another new one, and there's a new forest one, and yeah, I want to do that, but I can't. So there's a certain frustration there for the people that are engaged in a lot of things.
Yes.
So I just wanted to finish up. I've been lucky enough to work for the county board for like 30 years. And because of where we sit, the board has always invited this participation between urban and rural, north-south. We've had many, many iterations of this thing over time. And I guess what I would say is that it's pretty, the education has been clearly the most powerful, actually. If I would say it's made the most profound ecosystem things happen when the urban areas send their kids up to rural areas and they get it at the most profound level that they're connected. Meaning the Mona Lake story, for example, it didn't really get settled until the banner went up in the hoods in East LA and said Mona Lake's part of the hood. And then it really solidified. So there's that piece, but the other piece is the issue piece. And I think storage is really big in this state right now. Groundwater storage and the role of the landscape in groundwater storage is something that I just don't think has gotten a lot of attention for really good reasons. It wasn't important. But in this drought, you can tell the places that have groundwater storage and the places that don't. And so I think using the drought as a way to catapult another set of bigger thinking pieces around groundwater and what does the land do in a healthy condition to store and produce groundwater in droughts. That's a whole open door that nobody really has gone through. And I think, in this region, we're pretty aware of it. We have groundwater and a lot of places don't. And so, and a third of the flow into Oroville, which is surface water, is coming from groundwater. So I just think that there's this moment that I would encourage us to look at as we think about the web. And it's just not the surface water. It's really the whole hydrograph and how can we do that? It's complex, but it isn't really, and it's important now. So I guess I just throw that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's great.
Okay.
I'm good. I can hold mine in essence of the order.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Briefly, I was just looking at the list of grants. It's nice. Some
Yeah.
nice thing you provided there. Very comprehensive.
And well, we thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
coming and sharing.
Hope to see you for many years to come.
Yeah, and we hope we can take advantage of some of the opportunities, or at least facilitate some other things to take advantage.
Why don't we take about a 10-minute break? And then we'll come back and attack climate change techniques.